Hello, ghosts and goblins. This is Logan Miller, and you're listening to Void Signal with Brian McClelland.
On Discord, yeah. I mean, like I already had an account, and if you look at it, it's a really old picture of me. It's a drawing that someone made of me, as like 7 of 9 from Star Trek. And I don't know if you can see it really good, but it also says Cubasing it because I use Cubase as my DAW. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Cool.
There's a little bit of a buzz, like when you speak, but
Oh, hang on.
no worries.
What about What about, can you hear me though?
Yeah, I can
Hang
hear
on.
you perfectly fine. Yeah.
Okay, so you can hear me, and is the buzz gone?
It's still there, but it's not. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
Is it gonna is it gonna like record with the buzz?
Probably, but it's not. I mean, it's
What
not.
about that?
You just sound like you're talking over it. Like it's in the room and it's like buzz, and you're like, "Please, I'm trying," and you're like trying to talk over it, but
Oh,
it is still quite
okay.
there, but it is okay. It's not like so obtrusive that it's like,
All right, I'm trying different settings. I
no
don't think
worries.
any of these things are working.
I mean, I appreciate the effort.
Well, I mean, I am kind of an audio person, I
Right.
guess.
I mean, I would assume most people in this scene are, but then I get people who are like, how do I use this Discord? I don't know.
What about? Oh no.
No, there's still the buzz.
Okay, so this sounds better to me, but it probably doesn't sound
No,
better
it,
to
it
you.
does sound better to me. The buzz is, it sounds like it went in another room in your in your house. It's just like fine,
What about that?
perfect. Yeah, no, it's all gone.
Is the buzz
The
gone?
buzz is gone.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Wow, you might be the first guest to just like
I-
come on and just like,
I-
troubleshoot all your own problems.
I'm an IT person too.
Gotcha. Okay.
So. That's my gig.
Gotcha. That's the day job.
That's the day job. Yeah.
Well, I was listening to your music a little bit ago while I was in the shower. I mean, it's fine. You can listen to music nude if you want to. You don't have to shame me about it.
I prefer people, listen to my music nude.
Yeah.
I've been told that a couple of my songs are quote unquote slow sex songs.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
saucy. I mean, that's a good compliment. To get,
It is
like,
saucy, isn't it?
I mean, that sounds like a great compliment to
Spicy.
get. To be like, hey, for this thing I was doing that's like really cool, I put on, your music. I'd be so flattered. I'd just be like blown up. But
Yeah. I mean, everyone should be, banging to my music, I think.
right. I mean,
Right?
after listening to it, I would agree. It was, I mean, but no, I was listening to it earlier, and it was just, I like everything that you're doing, and there's something about your, I mean, I'm not trying to like blow you up here or anything, or tell you anything you don't know, but like, there's a smoky sort of roasted coffee, kind of an essence to your voice, and it comes across very strongly, and I'm very enamored with it. How long have you been like singing and trying to make music? Where did you come from? What put you on this path?
So my story is the same story as nearly everybody that I interview. So I do a radio show, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do, Situation 47 on Radio Dark Tunnel with Melody Horror. And so I've asked this people, I had to give it a plug,
No,
right?
of course you did. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you did, because like it was one of those things that I'm like, oh, hey, I'm a podcaster, journalist kind of a dude. Let me be prepared and make sure I follow everybody. And it's like, I'm constantly like, oh, I had this person on my podcast. It was such a big deal. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't follow them or like them on Facebook or, whatever. I always feel so
Yeah.
guilty, because it's like, I don't click all the buttons they need me to. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, but I'm glad you knew about that.
Thank you.
What was it?
I don't know. It's something about like,
Okay, so how did I get
Yeah.
So okay. All right, so I interview a lot of people in the scene, and a lot of them, when I ask them the same question you just asked me, will tell me that, well, I was like doing it back in the 90s, and then I kind of stopped, because I got married and had kids and stuff, and I started doing it again a few years ago. And you'd be absolutely stunned at the percentage of people that have that story when I ask them that
Sure.
question. And that is my story, which is why I find it like so amazing. So I I was doing electronic music in the 90s, some synth poppy stuff, some
Yawn.
industrially stuff. Huh?
Yawn. I'm just being facetious.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like you say that it's like the same story as everybody else, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's your story. That's what I'm interested
Well,
in knowing. Like, what?
But the fascinating thing is that it happened to all of us, which is so weird, right? And I have theories. I'm not exactly sure why. But I
definitely want to hear those. I want to hear all of those theories.
So, I mean, it was electronic stuff. It was, like I said, sometimes it was synth poppy, sometimes it was industrially, depended on the band I was in. I always loved industrial music. I was, always a fan of like Front 242 and Nights of Reb and Ministry, and KMFDM. And, can I swear? Can I swear or can I not swear?
No, you absolutely can swear. And I'm
Okay.
sorry. I was muted because I was smoking. Go on. Please continue.
Oh, okay. So the fucking amazing thing is now people on this scene get to work with and, kind of interface with those people. Right. So I'm actually working on a track that Julian Beeston wrote for me. Julian Beeston, who played drums with Nights of Reb, actually working on that tonight. And I did a song with Chris Connelly from Ministry, and had a conversation with Jim Marcus about his, surgery from divorce. So it's incredible, right? But so getting back to the whole thing. So I, adored all these people and then, got married and had kids and got to work a full-time job, got to take care of the kids. And it was just, impossible. I could have done music. And I think some men in my position were able to still do music because their wives were possibly the primary caregivers. Very rarely is the man the primary caregiver. So a woman, and this is nothing against men. This is just how it has been. Typically mom, is the primary caregiver and I couldn't do music the way I wanted to do it. So I just kind of stopped. But then late 2018-ish, early 2019, my kids were suddenly old enough to like kind of have their own lives. Like they were teenagers. They were hanging out with their friends. They didn't need me.
You could leave them.
I didn't have to watch
You could leave them in a room and they would not die.
I could leave them in a room with, a case of beer and they'd be fine.
Sure.
So that's when I said, you know what, and that summer of 2018, I went out and I saw Hassan Crooker's project. Oh gosh, what is it called? So Hassan was in Splashdown. Right? Splashdown.
I do not know.
So he, I can't remember his solo project, but they did a beautiful, beautiful song about that he wrote for an LGBTQ youth who committed suicide, and it's just this gorgeous, gorgeous song. And I loved it. I heard it on the radio, and then he came to town with his other band, Freeze Pop, and he opened for Freeze Pop. Anyway, so there he is on the stage, like one guy doing the twisting the knobs and doing the things and, like not even doing the vocals in some cases. And I'm thinking, not that I'm putting myself on the same level as Kassan, but if he could do this, I could start doing this. This looks easy, not from the perspective of like being talented easy, but from the perspective of to get this rig together and do this stuff. Right. So that's when I, just started investing money into the studio, and it really didn't take much money because I already had the laptop, and probably the most expensive pieces of gear in my studio are my guitars. Right. But Cubase and the audio interface and, getting a keyboard and, MIDI controller, not, that's not yacht money. So I was able to get it together and, and start making music. So that's my story. And that's the story that a lot of people have. And that's just the beginning of the story, because what happened after that is, when I was doing music in the 90s, you would work with local people, right? Because that's who you worked with. Now you can work with anybody. So I got a Twitter account, for the purpose of promoting myself. But what happened is I met all these people. I met Melody Hoare, Millennium Falk, who I did some voice acting for, Levinsky, all these really, cool. They were mostly synthwave people, so not exactly my tribe musically, but really great people.
And I mean, rewarding to work with, I'm sure.
Great, yes, great people, and the Less Dead, and I did some stuff with these guys, but I met Martin King from Dog Tablet on Twitter. And he went to my YouTube channel, and Martin King, who was in Test Department, and his partner in Dog Tablet, Roberto Suave, Bob Suave, who toured with The Cure and was in Shelley and Orphan and stuff. So I'm like, whoa, right. Martin was in Pigface. I've seen Pigface.
Right.
So he went out to my YouTube channel. He was like listening to some of my stuff, and he's like, "Hey, can I remix this thing?" And I'm like, "Holy crap, yes!" So I ended up working with him. I'm on the Feathers and Skin. I've been on their last 2 albums. I had a track on Feathers and Skin, and the last one, Pearl Drop Blue, and I've done remixes for them. And through Dog Tablet, I met my tribe, right? And they're not on Twitter; they're on Facebook. The industrial crowd's on Facebook,
right?
So I had to start a Facebook account, and that's just where I met everybody. And for me, it's not just about Sapphira Vee, the solo project. For me, it's collaborating with people. So I have side projects that are kind of more persistent, like Collapse of Dawn with Melody Hoare and Upon Eventual Collapse, or Venus McVie and Notorious Eric Von P that I do with Melody Hoare. But I also do kind of a bunch of ad hoc collabs, and I'm a joy thief. So I work with Dan Milligan. I'm actually doing a track with him that we're hoping to release later this summer, is The Joy Thieves. And it just was like a giant mushroom cloud. It just went poof, all the stuff I've been wanting to do, I was able to do. And then I started doing the show with Melody Hoare a couple of years ago and got to meet even more people, because I got to interview people like Julian Beeston, like Raymond Watts, like Chris Connelly, like Jim Davies,
Right.
So those aren't bad friends to have, right? And they're all really great people most of whom were willing to do some work with me, so I don't know how I got this lucky. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I'm soaking it all in, because this is kind of like a dream for me. Not making a dime, but it's still a dream for me.
Yeah. I do. I mean, that's kind of my story as well. I mean, honestly, I'd love to sit and pretend that, I have some amazingly different story, but, not really, not quite. I played around with trying to make my own music, in my teenage years. Oh, and before I forget, I do have to say just how much I appreciate that you do the thing that, like, I listen to an obscure music genre, so when I drop a name, I have to include at least 4 to 5 other names to let you know that this person is a big fucking deal. And I do appreciate that, and I do love it, because I find myself having to do the same thing, and I don't mind it. Like, it doesn't bother me. It's just that, like, I find myself wanting to desperately impress upon people how important this person is, or how much I admire them, or that
Absolutely.
they, what they have contributed to art and to my life is so important. So it's always this, like, when I was younger, it felt like justification of, like, well, I'm listening to this because, it's kind of cool. Like, but now it's become this thing of, like, I just want to convey how much I love it to people, I guess. And so there's a lot of, like, you might have heard of this thing. Well, it's just as important to me as that. But
I mean, there's a lot of inspiration in,
sure,
in these people that even if this person means nothing to you, they might have been been everything to me.
Mm-hmm. They meant enough to you to know their name, and I think there's tremendous power and tremendous value in that, because this is a scene that runs on gratitude a lot of the time.
You see it all the time. I mean, even like I read a post from Matt Connelly today, and he's like, it's amazing when you meet someone that you admire and you find out they're a fan of yours. And he was talking about Rain, because Rain is touring with Frontline Assembly, and they played. Where's Matt? Is Matt in Madison? I think he's in Madison, Wisconsin. And so they played somewhere around there, and I don't know, maybe it was in Chicago. I'm not sure, but he saw them and met her, and it's like, it's. I see it at least once a week. Someone saying, I got in touch with this person who, I only, idolized, and they got back in touch with me, and it's like happening now.
Yeah. It's pretty
which is amazing,
cool. Yeah. I to be honest, I'm at the time of this recording, this past Friday the 13th, I went to San Francisco to hang out with Morris Black and see the show and everything, and help them with, like, loadout and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like Brian. I really like what he does.
Same. And a lot of presence, very charismatic. Love that guy. Matt from Watch Out for Snakes was great. So it's like this sudden validation, you know what I mean? Like, you have to have had a moment like that. But I mean, I don't know that I could guess at what it would be, because scrolling through the list of artists that you've worked with and interacted with, and people who know you and recommend you, it's too many to count. I wouldn't know where to start. Who are these
people recommending? Do I need to start sending out checks?
I mean, you might have to. The time is coming soon.
By the way, before we go too far down the road, Symbian Project was Kassan Crooker's. I just thought of it. Was that what I? Okay. And the song is called something is love. I forgot. It's got the word love in it.
Okay.
But anyways, that was, he was the artist, and that was the song, and that's what got me going. But I kind of had some moments like that when I went to Cold Waves last September, and I'm going back this year, because I describe Cold Waves as it's like a family reunion, and a concert broke out. It's
right.
I get to see my buddy Ken Megerman and Colin Shipper, and I mean, there were so many, the Joy, like there were probably a dozen Joy Thieves there. We all took our picture together. Right. It was, it was just one of those. And every time someone said, "Oh, you," like, I was hanging out a lot with Sunil from, DJ Sunil.
I do not.
And from Sunil Asura. He's in Austin from Coop Radio.
Yep.
And
I'm sorry.
we'd walk into one of the venues, and and people knew him. Then he'd be like, this is Janet. I'm like, hi. You might know me as Sapphira. Oh, you're Sapphira Vee. And I mean, just that, like, not even from folks that I necessarily knew who they were, or people who were like super famous or anything, but just other people in the scene who I was, maybe getting to meet for the first time. Just like hearing that was like so gratifying.
Yeah.
Like they knew the name.
Right.
They may never have heard anything I did.
Right, but they knew the name.
They at least knew my name.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of value in that, because I mean, there's an impression, at least, if someone knows your name. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome. I have not been to Cold Wave Chicago. I made it to Cold Waves LA like years back, but it was pretty
still
special.
a good time.
Oh, absolutely.
Still
And I mean, the thing is, though, is that like the scene has I hate saying the scene. But
that's really what it is, though.
Sure, but it's gotten so like
family, the fam.
It is, but it's also quite diluted in just that, like it's like you said, like, okay, so using the family reunion analogy, it's like, oh, hey, didn't you know that's your cousin so and so? And it's like, fuck, no, I didn't. I have no idea who that person is. And it's like, well, you should have known. Like, I started to feel that way a lot as I was like interacting more with. I had a recording session not that long ago that probably should have come out by now, but. We all know
how that feels.
I mean, I'm the captain of this ship, so
that's
it's
right.
whatever.
You're on your own timetable, man.
Yeah, that's right. The world, you get to enjoy Void Signal at my pace. But I had a recording session with Dan Milligan, Ilker from ReGen, and Ken Magerman.
Three names that make me melt because they are such fabulous people and good friends of mine. Ilker was just on our show last week. He was doing his top 20 or whatever we were saying his top tracks from Q1,
right,
from the first quarter of 2022. So he was just on last week. But and I'm buds with Ken and Dan. I've worked with them a lot.
Yeah.
Three fantastic people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've known Ilker for quite a long time. I just was doing pet projects on ReGen from time to time. But I've only met Ilker in person once, and it was at Cold Waves LA, and it was like everybody knew Ilker, and that was my first time really going to like a concert or a show as like, oh, I've been a journalist in the scene for. I say journalist. Ilker isn't crazy about that term, but I don't know what else to call it. I've been a floater in the scene for however long. So that when Ilker's like, oh, there's Mark Heel, and he introduces me, and Mark Heel's like, oh, I know that name, and I'm like, my heart. There's that moment of like, holy shit. It's that's how Ilker was comfortable and accustomed to that and I admired that so much at the time, and so now that it's sort of happening to me, I'm like, holy fuck, this is awesome. Like, it's
he knows so much about music.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and he every time, this is the second time he was on the show. Every time he's on the show, we learn so much from him, and we're exposed to such great stuff. We love talking to him. I wish I could have him on every week, but he barely has time to get on the show a few times a year. So we're grateful for what we can get from him. But yeah, I actually had the pleasure of hanging out with him at Cold Waves last year in Chicago.
Yeah, I've known him quite a long time, and I absolutely love him. I'm not surprised that he would come on the show and see all we ever have to do is just be like, hey, Ilker, we talk about you on the show, and he will listen to the whole thing. So while we have him captive, I've been encouraging him to write a book. Like, I would, I mean, you've heard his stories. Like, he could go on.
He should. He can write a biography. He totally could.
Absolutely. I would buy the fuck out of a book written by Ilker.
Yep. We would all support it, bro. Do it.
Yeah. Here. It was my idea. I'd get like 5% of. I mean, it's
he's cursing you now because this is probably something he'd love to do. He's such a great writer. This is probably something that he would love to do, but like is thinking he's never going to have the time.
Right. He's never going to have the time, or he's not. Who gives a shit what I have to say? Well, we all fucking do.
We do.
Sometimes the dream is just a dream. No matter how it feels. Sometimes we see things we shouldn't see. Vision so unreal. She walks the night 'cause she can't sleep. And something doesn't feel right. How many secrets can one person keep? Nothing can dampen her sight tonight. Your pulse is rising. Tell me
So, yeah, it's incredible how much the scene has and everybody has grown together. I think the they definitely the pandemic and the lockdown and everything forced people into this sort of, how do I find everybody else? Whereas
our online relationships, yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think that's probably what has helped nurture such a motivation in people to be like, hey, maybe I'll revisit like the things that I used to love, because I'm clearly not happy with the world I've been given. So what kind of a path can I forge for myself?
I feel like it was like the weirdest perfect storm. I think, and so we're getting into my theory here. So
Okay.
I think it was a combination of things. First of all, I think most of us are approximately the same age, like within a decade of one another.
Sure.
So, and some people, have kids early, some people have kids later. I actually had mine later, but, we all kind of settled down and nested, had kids at the same time, and then everyone all of a sudden was like, oh geez, the kids are older, I've got some time now. I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is just technology, right? It just became super easy and super cheap to get to put an entire studio together for not a lot of money, right? And DAWs aren't that difficult to learn. I had to relearn everything when I was doing music in the '90s. I was working with a sequencer called Voyatra. There was no such thing. Well, there was such a thing as a DAW. There was Pro Tools, but that was like oppressively expensive, and only people that really knew their shit could use it. That completely changed, and then. The third thing I think is just social media. It just brought everyone closer together. And we realized there could be a scene again.
Right.
And there were things that happened that kind of brought industrial music back into the forefront, like the Wax Tracks documentary and things like that. So I feel like it was, again, sort of, the perfect storm. There were some people that have been doing music all along. Like if you talk to Jean-Marc Letterman, he's always, kept doing music even, after the Weathermen were done. And it sounds like Jim Marcus probably was as well. Julian's been kind of doing what he kind of calls his quote unquote day job. He's been, doing music for film and TV and things. But I think, a lot of people sort of went away and then came back to it for those reasons. So I, could be wrong. I don't know. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
All right. I'll accept that. I'll allow it.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. I think you're onto something. It's I think the other element is just that a lot of people were like, I don't know, suddenly there was a pause in everybody's lives, and we all had, at least for me, my anecdotal evidence to support my theory on this is my own experience, and that should be good enough for everyone, right? So,
right. It's like Wiki, right?
Exactly.
It must be true.
Of course. So at least for me, it was just like, I'd already been kind of feeling like, man, I'm having a hard time in my life fitting into a corporate sort of a world. So that, at some point, as the world was kind of spiraling down, I was like, I have to give this a go, whether something ever comes of it or not. So, I mean, absolutely, as far as like, if anybody ever hears this, that finds themselves lost in that moment of like, what am I going to do with myself? I kind of want to do this thing. You fucking should just do it. Like, even if it's...
Do the thing. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if your music is beeps and boops on a fucking $20 Casio that you got at a yard sale.
We love beeps and boops.
We absolutely love beeps and boops. So, like, you just have to do it, and it happens. It seems to be happening fast. So it's cool. Well, aside from all that scene geek shit, and that was the other thing I kind of wanted to just touch on really quick, is that, like, you're mentioning all these names that, like, you kind of have to guide me to, like, oh, so-and-so, we play, 7 Degrees with Separation or whatever, and then I'm like, okay, I get it, I'm there, I know that name. But it's amazing to me too when I'll speak to people who are in the scene, who have been in the scene for a long time, and I'll be like, oh, have you ever heard blah blah blah, so and so, whatever, and it'll be someone that has been around as long as they have or longer, and they're like, I have no idea who that is, and I'm like, it's wild that so many artists were just sort of charting this path in parallel without any knowledge of what the others were doing, or at least that's their story. Shh.
Well, and I think there's people like, Ken Magerman with his Sounds and Shadows group, who really started bringing people together. So I'm hoping we hear less and less of that. I mean, I personally, I love people, and I love to network, and I love to work with people, and I love to connect people, So I went, once I realized I could start meeting people virtually, I kind of went hog wild, and I got in touch with everybody I could. Like a remix album that was the complement to Feathers and Skin. It was called Muscle and Bone by Dog Tablet. If you look at the list of remixers on that album, it's mind blowing. And when I appeared on that album with these people, I just went nuts getting in touch with everyone. Like, hey, like I was tagging, I was promoting the album, and I was tagging them and stuff. And that's how I got to know Dan and Jules Seaford, who does my mixing and mastering. He also runs Armalite with Giles Morehouse, but he's a member of Sear, so that's how I got to know him and Coral Sear and Jed Denton. Chris Mack was on that. Chris Mackey was on that. Burton Bell actually remixed the song that I did with Dog Tablet, but I never got to meet him because he's kind of too famous. Right. But there was just a ton. Boot Blacks was on that. Eddie Finkler was on that, as Dead Agent. People that I'm friends with now, and I took that opportunity to get to know people, because kind of that's what I do. And I'll tell you, it sublimates your life when you get to know these other people that have the same passion that you have, and that was big for me, because I was really isolated from music for many years, raising my kids and loved my kids and everything, but there was definitely something missing, and this really brought it all together for me.
That's good.
I will be eternally grateful to Martin for taking an interest in me. I mention him in every interview, pretty much.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I'm really glad that it has worked out. Not just for you, but for sort of all of us. I mean, like you said, it was like, this is the story you always hear. So,
yeah.
I'm glad that's everybody's story, and I hope it continues that way. I mean, the other thing that I always have to kind of remind myself is that this is a scene built by outcasts and people who didn't quite fit in or get along with anybody else. So, not a lot of practice talking and and being social.
The island of misfit toys,
right? Exactly.
Well, and so sometimes the island of misfit toys needs a moderator. Someone like Ken or someone like myself that likes communicating, to kind of bring people together. And nothing makes me happier to like introduce two people and then all of a sudden their relationship takes off. Right. Like I met Kat Hall through. It's funny. I met Jack Elberson through Melody Horror, and through Jack Elberson, I met Kat Hall, and I did the single with Kat Hall to benefit cervical cancer last September, Breath of You, and then through me knowing Kat, Melody Horror got to know her, and now Melody Horror is a member of Dissonance with Kat Hall. So there was like this circle that happened there. But it's like stuff like that I just think is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a fan of it myself. Not quite gotten to that level quite yet, but I'm working on it. I'm close.
I think I cut you off earlier. You were going to go down some other path, and then
it's fine.
I diverted things.
It probably was not relevant. So that's fine. I think I was actually going to just be like, yeah, this scene's great. But like, I want to know more about you. Like, what's I don't know. I mean, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here because I don't usually, ask the last question of the podcast, but I feel like your answer will merit additional discussion. But
it'll be a long one because all of my answers are long ones. You know, I'm great to interview. You only have to have 5 questions.
Yeah, but see, like I also am one of those people. I don't want to name names of other people that are like me, but you know, I do kind of love to hear myself talk. So it's like you're like very verbose, and I'm like, damn it!
Yeah.
Oh, someone who loves to be as verbose as myself.
Well,
but no, I totally get you. I totally understand because it's like the inverted pyramid kind of a thing of structure of like that's how my brain works ever since I was taught to write that way. Have you ever heard this? Like the inverted pyramid of like narrative where I don't know if you give a shit. We can talk about something else. I'm just gonna like, I mean, it's all about being honest. Like, if you don't give a shit, like, we can talk about something else. I don't care. Like, it's, you know, this is some boring, like, lit theory bullshit. Like, it's cool. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we'll just go back to what I was gonna ask you. So, probably. I mean, from the sound, you seem more professional than me. So, I mean, my unprofessionalism is part of my charm. Like, that's just how it works.
Jimmy and I joke. Jimmy being Melody Whore, Jimmy and I joke about that all the time. How we're so incredibly unprofessional, but we have a good time on the show.
Well, yeah, but I do always ask the last question because I just like, I don't know. When I first started doing interviews, I was nervous. I didn't know what to ask. I just was like kind of winging it, and I was like, well, what would I really want to know? And like,
yeah, like be curious. What do you as a fan want to know? What do you imagine this person's fans want to know? What
Right.
do you imagine this person would like to talk about? And sometimes you don't get a good feel for that until you're like halfway through the interview.
Sure. I mean, and
And it all depends. You have some people that kind of clam up on you, and then you have other people like, the last time we interviewed Martin and Bob from Dog Tablet, I think Martin was about 3 bottles into some wine by the end of the interview, and then things just got nuts.
right.
You just kind of let things, go wherever they go.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of all you can do. But I mean, like, from that perspective, when I did finally try and arrive on like a question of like, okay, what's the recurring theme for me? What do I want to know from this person? Is just, I don't know. It's sentimental. I'm overly romantic about everything, but what are you enjoying right now? Like, what is just something that doesn't necessarily have to do with like all the things we just discussed, right? Of feeling very validated and reaching a point in your career that you feel very justified, but just what's something outside of that, outside of yourself, that you're just sort of really dialed in on right now?
Outside of music, or just outside of
It's funny, every time
the things that you mentioned?
Every time I ask this question, I'm always like, you can name a book or a movie or a TV show or whatever. But I always get 2 answers because we're all fucking geeks. Which is, I always get the most recent album I listened to was blah, blah, blah. And then, also this movie, this book, whatever. So however you would like to answer.
I don't watch a lot of television. I do watch some. I actually, I just got done binging like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and that
Oh my
was
God,
like,
I was just watching that today. I love that show.
Well, and the great thing about binging that show is the episodes are only like 22 minutes long, so you could be doing something, like you could be hitting the studio hard for like an hour or two, and then you just need like 20 minutes of like nothingness in your head, and watch it, because it's the dumbest, most intelligent humor ever on that show, right? And then you can get back into it. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about in my life right now that I'm doing happens to be a musical thing, and it's the fact that I've started playing out again, because I hadn't. We did. When I say we, I mean myself and my guitar player James Tabby, who is in a band called the Heroic Enthusiasts, locally here with me, and Joe Whitaker of the Funeral March, who's in Rockford, Illinois, who very graciously agreed to do 2 dates with me in February, opening for Ayatoya and Comrades. And that was my first gig, that kicked off their East Coast tour. But it was my first gig since the 90s.
Right.
Because I wanted to play out previously, but by the time, I told you, I think I started in like early 2019. By the time I had a decent set of material together, COVID hit. So there was no gigging then. So when it was time to gig again, and Comrades is local also to where I am, and Zach Burnett, he's great about booking gigs and stuff. He'll bring in people, like locally, he'll bring in people from all over the place. And he actually, on July 14th, we're doing a local gig with myself, him, and Blood Handsome, who's currently touring with Actors. And I think one other band. And then on June 17th, we're doing a live stream with Empire of Beat, and it's to benefit Big Cat Conservation. It's called Wild Feral Hearts. And it's just myself and James this time because I'm not going to drag Joe out here 10-hour drive to do that, or the Rochester gig. But we are also playing in Pittsburgh on July 22nd for Distortion Productions, and Distortion Productions is my record label. Distortion Productions' 10th anniversary of the label and 200th show that Jim Simonik, the head of the label, has promoted as a promoter. So I get to play with Red Locust, which is his band, and Lorelei Dreaming, and Tragic Impulse. I mean, these are people I fucking love, right? And there were a couple more people on the bill, Boxed Warning, and who else was it? There was one other one. I can't think. There were 6 of us. So I'm really excited about that. And that's something that I'm kind of all wrapped up in right now because we won't have Joe with us for the next couple gigs. So some of the things he was doing, I'm kind of having to do myself. He was running the video. We've got, really cool video that Joe created in the background when we do the live gigs. So I'm, working on getting that together for the set and, just all those tech things,
Right.
the freaking projector and everything. Completely excited to do all of it. And I love being on stage again. I forgot how much I loved it. It was like riding a bike. I mean, I wasn't nervous at all. I just completely got off on the whole experience. And it was, those first 2 dates were so special because I love Anya. I mean, Ayatoya, Anya Tarnowska. She's just a ray of sunshine in everyone's life. So it was just beautiful getting to hang out with her for a couple gigs. And Joe Lopez, who is her videographer and was the driver on the tour. So much so that I asked Joel if he would film a video for the song Metamorph, which is on Aerial Human, my most recent album that was released in February. So we just went to Chicago and filmed Metamorph with Joel. And so that should be coming out sometime soon. I don't really have a date for that. So that was a lot of fun. I saw OMD in Chicago, which was amazing.
Right.
I got to tell you, it exceeded everyone's expectations. Roger Ebner, who's in Chicago, joined us for the concert. He played saxophone on the song "This Gift Was Not Meant for Me" on Aerial Human. Just wonderful man, Roger Ebner. He's also played saxophone with Pigface and Dog Tablet and Worm and some other bands. Bitter Elixir, the Roger Ebner band. But anyways, Roger's great. But yeah, so that was a great experience too, like actually flying somewhere and getting to see the concert. Andrew McCluskey was amazing that night. His voice hasn't changed at all. He still sounds fantastic. He looks fantastic. He was like the sexiest man on earth for that hour and a half.
Wow. All right.
It was just, it was a great experience. So I love being in the studio and making music and everything, but getting to do these other things now that COVID is over, getting to travel and do the video and, get out and do gigs. That's just lighting me up these days.
Right.
I'm just loving it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's my answer.
It's a good answer. I like it.
Yeah, you think so? Good.
Yeah, I do. I approve of it. I'll allow it.
Good.
I won't make you redo it. But no, I mean, sort of similar for me. I got to go out to San Francisco and see a show and feel super validated and everything, and I just miss shows. I just miss that energy, that buzz that's in everything. The
concert, even just going to it's Friday night. What am I doing? Oh, let's go to a local club and just see a local band.
Yeah.
Just even getting to do that. What a privilege.
A couple weeks back, I went and saw fucking Black Label Society. I still couldn't, not before, not during, and not now, could I name a Black Label Society song. But that's okay because I had a blast, and it was
great.
It was
and you were supporting live music.
Right.
You were supporting live music. You were supporting a music venue.
Right.
And all these things are very important right now to get live music cranked up again.
For sure.
Everyone's on their 40th year tour, right? Like that was OMD's 40th. I think New Order and Soft Cell have some 40th thing going on right now. And in most of them, you know, it's actually been like 41 or 42 years, but this is the first chance they have to get out and do it.
Right.
I think Ministry did some sort of something. Maybe it was the 30th year of Land of Rape and Honey, something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of anniversary shows, anniversary tours going on right now.
Yeah, there are. That's it. Like, I've had you for about an hour or so, and
it flew, didn't it? You never had to wonder what you were going to ask next because I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's so good. I'm so glad. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. I'm interested to know, and I'm going to. Void Signal is ad-free so that I can have music in the episodes. Unfortunately, that means that I have to rely on other means if I want to keep doing this. So you can visit voidsignal.net to, leave me a tip. Buy me a beer, buy me a coffee, buy me a joint, whatever you want. You can also find information there about Void Signal HQ, which gives you early access to episodes and behind-the-scenes stuff. There's also voidsignal.online, where I designed some merchandise that was meant to be like thoughtful or humorous in some way. So hopefully you find something you like, but this is what I got. So thank you so much for your consideration, and take care. Cheers.